This is strange. Oh.
We're live.
Live.
We're live. I don't know whether anyone's watching us, but we are live.
We're gonna learn so
to the
much.
internet, and we are recording on the internet. Oh, there's a person.
A person.
Hello. Welcome, person. And welcome everyone viewing after the fact on the YouTube channel. The purpose of this, of course, is to celebrate 100 subscribers. I'm typing it here to try out the banner, but of course you all are already seeing that in the name of the video, and I have to click show. There we go. Yes.
Oh, that's so exciting.
100.
I'm glad you put the exclamation point. That really makes it special.
Exclamation point makes it so special. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna adjust my glasses the wrong way because the image is mirrored. Anyway, thank you to everyone who is a subscriber. Thank you to everyone who subscribed. I am Steve, the INTP. This is my wife, Renee. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my channel and celebrate the fact that we have now gotten over 100 subscribers. We've got one person watching. I wonder if I can see who's in the room. Can I see who's in the room? Do I have to wait for them to comment so that I can see who's in the room? Ah, nobody's in the room anymore. Okay. Somebody's joining and exiting and joining and exiting.
They can't decide what they want.
They can't decide. What we need to do is decide. Let's see here. Oh, can I click on here to see? How can I see who the viewers are?
Unless we are the viewer.
We are the viewer. We are the that wouldn't make sense because it just said there were 0 viewers. So it makes sense. It would not make sense if we were the one viewer. But it's fine. We're visible to folks on the internet in perpetuity.
We're listening to each other.
Bloodfang Beloved. Thank you for being here, Bloodfang Beloved. Oh, 3 people.
Oh.
Hey. I'm sure somewhere.
Both of you have usernames that sound like cool books that I would read. Bloodfang Beloved and Irakli.
Irakli Basaladze.
Cool.
Great name.
Cool name.
Hello. Thanks for being here. Cool. We're going to get started, although there aren't a lot of people here yet. We didn't know how many people could make this time. We threw it together really last minute to celebrate 100 subscribers. So let me now share the screen. Ooh, will it let me? Oh, hey. Does it not let me share the screen? Oh, wait. I figured it out. Found the button. I found the button, guys.
It's really good you're not me, because I would have had to like do a complete test run and I would still do it a little bit wrong. But you're real good at adapting and observing and then doing the things.
And you're real good at vamping.
I know. I'm here to vamp just for you. I am very good at vamping, I think.
Thank you, Renee, for being here to vamp. Ah, there's what I was looking for.
It's us and then us again.
Yes. Found a way to do it. Thank you, StreamYard, for having technology. Yes, Irakli. This is
any last minute.
Any last minute.
Yeah.
A tiny little bit of SI that happened yesterday. Mostly any happening last minute.
Yeah, 2 seconds before this, I was like, you have the questions, right? And he's like, of course.
Of course. Of course we have the questions. People ask questions. Thank you, people, for asking questions.
Yeah.
What you're seeing on the screen right now is the channel on YouTube. Well, at least my view of the channel on YouTube. But you can see that banner there with me and Renee. A lot of the videos just feature me talking about MBTI and objective personality stuff derived from, Carl Jung's view of psychology, because I think about it too much. So I have a channel that we started out in January, and now we're at 112 subscribers, more than 100. It's fantastic. I would have actually done this video earlier. This live stream celebration would have happened earlier, but my day job is very demanding. So if anyone's been waiting for new videos to come, they will be coming. But we wanted to take this time to celebrate 112 subscribers. Thank you all for subscribing and being part of this. And the big key interesting thing about having over 100 subscribers, other than just being very thankful to you all, is we get to customize the channel URL.
Ooh, so special. I'll
Yes,
just keep doing this.
knows what I want. Give the fans an easy to remember web address for your channel. There it is.
Steve, the INTP.
And now I think, do I just click publish?
It means you truly exist now because you have your signature on the internet.
I do.
You didn't exist
I
before.
didn't exist before. Not as an INTP, anyway.
No, you were a lie before.
But now I shall exist on youtube.com/C/Steve the INTP. It means I'm a C-level internet celebrity now.
Oh.
That's what that means.
No, wait, no, what does it really mean?
I have no idea. I have no idea what it means to be in the sea. I'm not a pirate.
I'm thinking about it.
People used to call me pirate in college back when I had long hair.
I'm dreaming.
There's some NE for you. So that is
That's
the
gonna
channel
really bother me.
now customized. So now we can go to this and we can pop this in youtube.com/C/Steve the INTP. And there we go. The channel comes up. Momentous, glorious day. I don't have party poppers or fanfare,
It's so beautiful.
but I got Renee doing jazz hands.
That's the best I can do. Maybe we should have like worn party hats and had little streamers. It's your birthday soon too. We should have planned. I'm gonna drop that in there.
Well, this celebration is for the channel.
Steve's birthday is Cinco de Mayo. Now everyone is obliged
Everyone is obliged.
to gift you with their love.
Everyone's obliged.
Does that put any FE pressure on you?
Just a little. Just a little. All right. Thank you, Bloodfang. Thank you. Let me share the questions that folks have asked. We got a fourth person in the room. That's great. We're going to share, and I know not everyone can make it at this time. Hey, Zadie, thank you. So we're going to share the questions that we got, and then folks will be able to watch back and see our answers to them. And any folks who are in the room can interact with us as well. So I'm going to share what we're seeing first. There we go. So here's our 100 subscriber thread. But then I'm actually, before we answer these questions, we got one question in the chat, which I'll answer. Irakli asks, by all means, you could tell me more down-to-earth, less OP terms, the difference between NE and NI. Have been confusing me to nail it down for a long time. So I am equipped to do this, to talk to you about it in not, well, are you looking for OP terms or less OP terms? I can try to do it both ways. I can try to do it both ways.
Any that way or any this way?
More down to earth, less OP terms. I'm capable of doing that. Am I capable of being down to earth? We'll find out. Capable of less OP terms, that I'm capable of. I have a video on my channel that's about introverted functions and extroverted functions as breadth first searches and depth first searches, which is an idea from computing and from doing searches. And so the idea there is that an extroverted function is looking for breadth, is looking for more examples of the same thing. And an introverted function is going deeper in to something. So in the case of NE, it's looking for more abstractions, more abstract connections, more patterns. And in the case of NI, it's looking to go deeper within the same abstractions, looking to go deeper and deeper and find more levels deeper within that same abstraction. Of course, you also have to then pair them with their opposites, which is NE is looking for more and more ways of viewing really the same things, the same SI. And NI, because it's going narrower and narrower within abstractions, it's looking for more SE examples around for that. So that is as down to earth as I can make it. I think what I said there corresponds with what Jung has written. I haven't read everything that Jung has written, but from what I can tell, it seems consequent with that. So that's me being as down to earth as I can. There might be more examples later, but we'll go with that for now. I see Daisy the INTP has joined.
Hello, type twin.
Hello, type twin. Thank you for being here. And yes, my lovely wife is Renee.
Hi.
Renee appeared in my first video where I revealed my OP results, my objective personality results. Renee was part of that video. And then since then, we do videos where I kind of empty my brain on camera. That sounded odd. Where I let you know the contents of what I'm thinking on camera. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
And then Sadie Mae asks, do you think your wife is in your quadra? Any guesses? Oh.
We are.
We're in the process.
We're in the process of figuring out what the heck I am.
What you are.
I will.
Animal, vegetable, mineral.
I'm not going to say anything definite, except I do think that we are both the FETI. I think that that's pretty certain. But I'm on a journey. So I submitted to Dave and Shan in February 1st. And I remember because we both got Anyway, so yeah, I submitted to them and we got very surprising results, which I am not going to reveal yet because we want all the information before we share with everyone, which is why we were thinking I was going to show up in more videos, and then we didn't really have answers, and now people keep asking because we've been like talking about it forever.
We're figuring it out.
We're figuring it out.
Dave and Shan are on it. So Renee submitted a video. David Shan reviewed it. They gave us a result that we said,
yeah, I'm not sure.
So,
and we were very nice to them because we don't. We think that they do have wonderful authority over things, and I was like, oh no, I'm that person who's like, I don't think this is my type. I didn't want to be that way, but they were really, really great and are considering my type again. So I submitted a new video, but the difference in typing between what Dave and Shan thought I was, what Steve thinks I am, and I had a typing group type me, all were very different.
Lots of different results
across the board. So honestly, what would be super fun is for you guys to say what you think my type is. Mostly because why not interact there in that chat and in the comments.
Sadie Mae says that Sadie Mae disagreed with their type too.
Oh yeah. Oh, so some of the typing group does know what type I got. That's true. So those people are holding on to that secret.
Well, don't spill the beans. Don't spill the beans.
I mean,
have fun. Obviously, I want to continue the any fun.
I know it's very hard for me to not just burst out all of the information that I know, but I do think it's more fun and more respectful to like Dave and Shan in the community to like keep the information until it's like firm.
Yeah. So Dave and Shan were kind to work with us on that. We don't know whether they always whether they always will reconsider people, etc. We know that they do a lot more for the community than what it says on their website. They're really, they give you one assessment and that's all that you're really entitled to. But we were just curious and we wanted to know more, and we were nice about it and not angry about it. So they were willing to do that for Renee, and we're curious to find out. It should happen. It should happen in a while. We're waiting to see what results we get.
Wait, isn't it tomorrow?
We'll see.
They emailed me a day. I don't remember what it was.
We'll see. We'll see when they get back to us. We'll see when they get back to us. No pressure. No pressure. We'll see when they get back to us, and then maybe we'll share with you.
Bloodfang says I'm a human. Did we catch that? Or a rock?
Could be a rock.
Yeah, mineral, vegetable, or mineral.
I think you're more likely vegetable.
Model of a modern major general.
I think you're closer to a vegetable than a rock myself.
No, that's true. I'm more squishy and like weird than like cold and hard. At least I'd like to think so. I don't know.
Thank you for that any diversion. Ironically, I forgot that I could be sharing these on the screen as well.
There's so many possibilities.
So many possibilities.
As you navigate the next thing, like to go back to the NE versus NI, how I see any manifest in Steve specifically is I will think that we're going to talk about one thing, and then we go so far afield around different topics that are related to that topic that I eventually will be like, wait, what was your point? And Steve will think he has made a point, but he has not. And then usually you can then summarize, but
I will think I've
it will
already
be
come back to it.
incredible. Like it is like watching a beautiful idea marathon. It's so fun. And sometimes I'm very annoyed because I just want him to get to the point.
And there's actually a good
That's fun.
comparison here. I'll reshare Irakli's question while we're
Cool.
talking about the NE and NI. So thank you, Irakli, and everyone can see the spelling just in case we're pronouncing it wrong. But thank you for asking about NE versus NI. That's a very down-to-earth example that Renee was able to give, more down-to-earth than what I said earlier, of what NE is, which is where I'm just talking in circles. And she's like, when are you going to get back to the point? And if you look for an example of NI, there you have a very clear one, because if you do objective personality and you watch Dave Powers talk in his videos, you'll hear a lot of the same idea. Many examples of the same idea. Different sensory stuff.
Of
same idea. So you can get a very clear example there. I've also noticed doing YouTube videos now, and the way I do my YouTube videos is I kind of sit down in front of the camera, start talking, then I edit myself later to cut out all the ums and ahs and all that, all the stuff that you're getting. Yeah, all the stuff that you're getting the privilege of seeing in this live video. Cutting all that down, adding helpful graphics, hopefully to explain what's going on. And I've realized as I'm editing myself, wow, there are so many ideas here. I thought I was talking about one idea, but I'm talking about like 6 different ideas.
Yeah, he'll share the video with me, and I'll be like, I think this is three videos. But it's really cool. Though I do think it makes you make connections that the rest of the community doesn't necessarily put together, because any ability to like synthesize ideas is really impressive.
Yeah. And then again, compare and contrast to Dave Powers and the objective personality community, who just, the same concepts. We all love that hero's journey, don't we? The same concepts just over and over. So I'll acknowledge a few other people. Hey, Bloodfang, thanks for letting us know that Renee is human, or perhaps a rock.
Yes. I disagreed with my type too. Oh yeah, Sadie. Yeah, it made me realize like how many people must disagree with their type, and Dave and Shan have talked about that. Like so many people are reluctant about their type, and then I think about all the people who are in their demon states and trying to like have self-growth, and how much negativity Dave and Shan must have to deal with, because I was really surprised what type they gave me and disagreed with it, but I didn't want to be combative. Like that's not my deal. So
yeah. And that's the thing that we think is important, is we don't know whether in the objective personality community, I always talk about it like this huge community. There's a lot of people. There's a good there's a good number of people in certain Facebook groups, which I've had up. We will eventually get to the Facebook group questions. There's a number of people there who are just very involved and find it very helpful and interesting to think about. And, all the reasons that those of us who are into Jungian psychology are into it, to learn about ourselves and what we need to challenge ourselves in our lives, how to work together with other people, deal with other people in our lives. There's all kinds of interesting reasons to be into it, as all these people are. But one thing that comes up is sometimes people feel like if they disagree with Dave and Shan, that it's like automatic disrespect. And so we want to encourage there to be people who say like, I got my type, I'm not sure I agree with it, and I want to talk about it, and in a way that is still respectful to Dave and Shan and to their whole community that they've started based on their typing, which is really great. Cool. Daisy, the INTP twin type, also says, surprised that official type. Daisy has talked in the past about the switch from self-typing as INFP to getting typed by objective personality as INTP. Yeah, the tidal wave and thing. I deal with that later. Yeah.
Yeah, there seems to be so
think
many
it's
people in the
definitely-
groups. Like, I think that that's the type I see writing about themselves the most, is people who are unsure about being FI first or TI first, which is really interesting to me. I don't know. I find that really fascinating that those two things, like on paper, seem entirely different, but when it comes to like self-belief and DI stuff, it's just like so firm to the individual that it's hard to separate whether it's good and bad or true and false.
Yeah, and also we're big on everybody does everything. So it's not whether it's one or the other, it's where it lands in your stack, which is trickier to figure out.
Yeah.
But that's a whole other thing. So thanks everybody for being here. Daisy, I do definitely relate to thinking it to death later, even when the thing is resolved.
Yeah, you
I'm
wouldn't
gonna
feel it
jump.
later.
Totally. I'm gonna jump over to our Facebook questions that I've been sharing. So let's use that screen real estate.
Cool.
First, we have comments from the SI Queen and the SE Queen, as I call them in the OP community. Laura Miller, the SI Queen, says, congratulations on getting 100 subscribers. Thank you, Laura. As an INTP, which parts of OP most TI work for you? Which parts of OP do not work for you, which kind of ties into a lot of what we've been saying here, doesn't it? So in terms of TI, what works well about it, you have to compare it to what went before, MBTI, and cognitive functions in general. There's a whole academic rabbit hole of stuff to go into between MBTI, well, between Jung and then MBTI, Myers-Briggs, to then down to Dave and Shan. They did a video on it a little while ago, but they didn't really acknowledge all of the things in between. There are so many other people's names who have written about this stuff, which is kind of funny when people say MBTI is really not academic at all, or not scientific. It's like, actually, there's a lot of academic writing, but as with many things, it's hard to do qualitative research in a scientifically rigorous way that makes hard scientists happy. But anyway, that's me, Any, going in circles.
What's the difference between qualitative and quantitative?
Qualitative is the...
I knew he'd have the answer.
Well, I'll start the other way. Quantitative is when we're counting, right? Quantitative is this is 1 foot long, this is 2. If we're measuring the height of trees, that's quantitative, right?
I can't wait to go out and do that.
Yeah, this tree is this tall, this tree is that tall. Qualitative is differences in quality that can't be measured against each other. Like this is a tree and this is a bush. Those are qualitative differences. You can't just narrow that down by measuring how tall they are. It has to do with a whole bunch of other qualities. And that's what typology looks at, is different qualities of different people. All that to come around to say, which parts of OP most TI work for me. Again, I have to compare it to MBTI and to cognitive functions that went before. The thing that I think is great about OP and what TI works is that it acknowledges the jumper extroverts and jumper introverts, and the sort of range of introverted and extroverted, and kind of accounts for why different people have different sorts of energies, and why it's funny that these terms, introvert and extrovert, are probably the most popular piece of Jung's thinking that like still prevail in popular culture. I think if somebody says introvert or extrovert, whether or not they're thinking of it in the way that Jung meant, sometimes people just mean to say that they're shy or social. But still, people who use the word introvert and extrovert, and it's not, they're not necessarily thinking about Jung or about MBTI or about any system or anything like that. They're just using a word that they know. So it's interesting that the word introvert and extrovert maintain in our popular culture. But what OP does is really help break that down in sort of different energy levels, and not just who's introverted and who's extroverted, but what are you introverted about? What are you extroverted about? What are you introverted about first? Are you extroverted then introverted? Are you introverted then extroverted? What kind of cycles do these things go in? What kind of cycles do your attention and energy go in? And that's very interesting, because Jung started off his work with introverts and extroverts. That's where he started by saying some people are more introverted and some people are more extroverted. And then he gradually got into how we perceive and how we judge, how we observe, and how we decide. One thing I really like about OP is that it's coming back to that part of Jung that kind of got really oversimplified in MBTI and beyond. And like I say, in popular culture, where people just think of it as, are you shy or are you outgoing? When really it has more to do with, are you, like I was saying earlier, in answer to that one question where I went on my any rabbit hole about introverted and extroverted functions being breadth first searches and depth first searches, where it's really the extroverted is looking for what's new, what's outside, beyond, and the introvert is looking for within what's known deeper. How do we get to an even deeper level? So I find that really interesting. Which parts of OP do not work for you? So I have two big OP heresies, maybe more, but I'll count two right now. My biggest OP heresy is I don't care whether it ever becomes hard science. I don't care whether we can ever actually measure and objectively say, you are an extrovert, you are an introvert, you are thinking, you are this many degrees thinking, you are this many degrees feeling, and there's no other way to look at it. I'm not sure whether I actually care that it ever becomes hard scientific fact. What I care about is that it's a story you tell yourself, and it's a story you tell yourself about how you deal with other people. I mean, not even just OP, but just in your mind, you have a story about what your life is like, and you have a story about how you interact with other people. And OP or Jungian psychology, it just gives you a frame to think about that in. That's why the hero's journey gets applied to so many movies. It's a frame to think about life and challenges and interacting with other people. And
I want to mess with you and say, why not horoscopes then, Steve?
You're going to throw this at me, but so there are people who do horoscopes and are real dumb about them and are just like, the horoscope says this, so that's going to happen. And then they just look with confirmation bias. I do know of people who look at horoscopes and have all this astrological stuff where they're like, well, this is why this happens, that's why that happens, and then they can find ways to make exceptions. And I can see how okay, that's more guidance in your life than having nothing. I can see how you'd get some benefit from thinking about it that way. I would say that it's less rigorous than OP, but still, if it's something that people have spent thousands of years thinking of how to categorize people into, you're going to get some benefit from studying it. Sure. So I'm not pro horoscope necessarily, but at the same time, I don't want to just write off that everyone who thinks about astrology at all has no wisdom to offer in the least.
Narrow down your viewers. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, gotta make room for that, Eddie. Gotta make room for that. Which
11 OP frame is about as much structure as our TINE wants to narrow down.
Don't narrow it down too far.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was almost the catchphrase.
Because horoscopes are stupid. Bloodfang and we get it.
You're on the same page.
Yeah, we can be the haters.
So that's my first OP heresy, is that I'm not invested in it becoming science. I don't know that there's any genetic link between OP. I mean, clearly OP is approximating something that probably has some kind of biological basis in it, something in our brain chemistry. But I'm not out to prove that, the 9 coins are in your genes. I'm not out to prove that. I don't mind. I care more about the story I'm telling myself about how I live life, the story you tell yourself about how you live life. Does it work for you? If you're over-focusing in one area, your saviors, could it benefit you to look at another area, your demons, and help you live your life? That's much more interesting to me. I guess the self-help of it.
I value the balance of it.
Yeah.
I think the other personality thingies in the world to me are a big overview and very specific details that you look to fit or not. And OP is a focus on, these are the you know, I don't like saying the same things that Dave and Shan say over and over. You're really good at the stuff, and the stuff you're really good at is why you're bad at the bad stuff. Did you like that? Was that a good?
There you go. I mean, that does come around to maybe something I should have said for the last part. What parts of OP most TI work for you? The thing about OP or Jungian psychology that works the most for me is that it's starting from why human beings do the actions that we do. Why does a person do the things they do? And it starts with saying, look, there's what actions you take in life depend on the observations and the decisions, right? They depend on how you perceive the situation and then how you judge to act in that situation. And that's mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive, which is an annoying business term, but is useful. Those two things are different from each other. The observations and the actions, the observations and the decisions, those two things are distinct from each other, but those are the two pieces of what come together to make a human take an action. And then within those, the sensory and the intuitive are mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive. Everything there is can be slotted somewhere in there on a continuum from more abstract to more concrete. But there's only two directions you can go in. There's not a third direction. There's not something other than sensory and intuitive to categorize your observations in. Mm-hmm. And the same with thinking and feeling. You can, when you look at how people make decisions, it can either be more geared towards what's true and false, towards thinking, or it can be decided based on what's good and bad, which is more feeling. And it's just one of those two. I'm sure someone will come out of the woodwork and argue that there are other frameworks, but those are the two main frameworks that are in opposition. And then within each one of those, you can have an introverted view or an extroverted view. You can be looking for new ways to do it. You can be looking outside for more new ways to do it, or you can be looking deeper in. So each one of those dimensions, observation, decision-making, and introversion, extroversion, those are each mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive parts of how a human being makes a decision, which I think is great.
I don't know what your second heresy is, but something we talk about a lot is how the feminine and masculine seems to be kind of limiting, which is funny because we're talking.
My second heresy.
Okay, that's then we're on the same page. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we've like you were talking about the sliding scale and how it's one way or the other, and I do think like masculine and feminine are on a sliding scale too. Mm-hmm. But to define a function as fully masculine or fully feminine seems oddly limiting because it's not really. I don't know. It seems like. Because I don't see people being fully aggressive or fully, what's your word other than submissive? Adaptive, yeah. And the way that the feminine functions are discussed seem to be like, oh, I'm feminine sensory, so I don't know anything, or I'm really clumsy, or whatever. I find it limiting, and I think that there's a lot of validity in the masculine and feminine aspects of stuff, like clearly seeing of the 512 types, the same, MBTI type with those specifications. There's clearly a difference, but there's something that doesn't sit right with me because of the gender dichotomy.
This is indeed my second heresy, is also along with the sexuals that Dave and Shan add that get them from the, how many is 256 to 512, or 128 to 512, whichever way the math works. They would say that's because I have feminine sensory. They might say that. I don't want to speak for them, but yeah. So I think it is valuable that they added that because I think looking in terms of the masculine archetype and the feminine archetype, those two archetypes exist. Right. There are lots of stories over thousands of years that use these archetypes of men as strong and warlike and immovable, and stories about women as being alluring and adaptive and creative. There are definitely stories about that, about both those two archetypes. And I think similar to the introverted and extroverted archetype, which again, in popular culture, people kind of reduce to just shy and outgoing. But we see that the picture is more complex than that. Similarly, there's a more complex picture of, is this person feminine or masculine or a mix of both? Most people are a mix of both. And then I find that the way Dave and Shan have applied that to cognitive functions, similar to the way they did with introvert and extrovert, it gives you like a range of like, oh, here's why this person feels more masculine, feels more feminine, or feels, this is why this person feels like that other person. This is why this person feels like that other person. But the reason I say it's a heresy is because the way that they define it is they say that the sensory and the extroverted decider are the two things that determine all of it. And that seems to me to be very limiting. Also, they just seem very focused on the masculine functions. And like Renee was just saying, like occasionally they'll say like, oh, the feminine functions are creative, but they spend most of the time talking about how great and how like undeniable the masculine functions are.
I would
and
say
then not as, when they talk about a feminine function, it's more like, well, you can tell it's feminine because this is wimpy or they're a pushover or whatever. It's very
I don't think they
masculine.
intend to paint it that way either.
I don't think they
For some
intend
reason
to.
it keeps coming out that way to me. One thing I would say is like the sliding scale of introverted, extroverted, sensory intuition, yada yada. I think that the animal order explains that sliding scale.
Yep.
And for some reason, the animal order doesn't feel to me like it explains the masculine and feminine qualities.
Yeah, I feel like the way that they have the breakout of masculine and feminine, it just doesn't explain that as satisfying a way. And I think perhaps part of that is, as I was just saying, the way that they describe the feminine, it often feels like they're describing the masculine with masculine language, and then they're describing the feminine with masculine language.
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
Calling the feminine like a pushover is a very masculine way to talk about it, instead of looking at it as the feminine's adaptive. The feminine will let you think you're getting your way and then find a way to get their way. Like it's the, and I wonder if that's perhaps because Dave has feminine saviors and masculine demons, whereas I have masculine saviors and feminine demons. I don't know. Maybe it's something to do with what your makeup is, which one you prefer. But we definitely just in Dave and Shan's content, we find that there's just a very masculine function point of view, and we just kind of would like to see more feminine description or feminine language. And again, this is not to talk badly about Dave and Shan, because they're the reason we're having the conversation at all, right? They thought to put that in there, which is great, which is great. And we also see more to it that needs to be discussed.
Yeah, we got a type guest for me. NITE, blast, sleep, play, consume.
Interesting.
Who knows? And then Bloodfang is also talking about sort of like regular traditional gender roles. Yeah. And like I do, like you said something like double masculine. I'm summarizing, but double masculine being like a man, a man bear pig. And I agree, like the people who are labeled double masculine are really clear. But like I remember when Steve got his results, we always thought he was MF. And like double feminine certainly makes sense. But yeah, the clarity of the feminine attributes are unclear. I also
but that's part of why it's my big heresy, is I think the feminine attributes should be clear. Yeah. You should be able to, in the same way that they can like pull video clips of people and say, see, this person's being masculine because they're being so solid and they're not being pushed over and they're being assertive. In the same way, you should be able to find video clips of people where you're saying, look at how alluring this person is being. Look at how they're pulling people into their way. Look at how they're being creative. Look at how they're being nurturing. Like, that language should be there. And I do think that they pull clips where they say, like, look at how this person is feminine with the tribe, but they don't describe it in the detail that they describe the masculine, which again may just be different saviors, different strengths, whatever, that they're just better at describing the masculine, and maybe people in the community need to talk about the feminine and put it in that language more. Cool.
Yeah. I just want to point out that Daisy asked if you can play devil's advocate, and that's why you can personally think horoscopes are but you will remain open to how it may work for others. This is Steve every single day, and people are very confused about what he actually thinks, and he will often get people very mad at him on the internet for playing devil's advocate. And I know what he means because I'm his wife, but often people on opposite sides, and it'll even be like, is a hot dog a sandwich? Okay. Like, people will get so angry that Steve is not like clear on if he thinks a hot dog is a sandwich. It's taken me a long time.
No. I was
okay.
clear
That's
on,
okay.
This is a whole other thing. This is a whole other thing that people we know were all about discussing whether a hot dog was a sandwich. I think it actually started with one of our friends saying, come on, guys, a hot dog is not a sandwich. And then people were coming down hard that a hot dog is a sandwich. I
brought this up. It was a mistake.
And I'm like, guys, a hot dog is not a sandwich.
Really,
the problem here is that there are two definitions. There are two distinct categories of sandwich, which makes it, we're not going to get into it. But anyway, the point is, there's lots of any that, yes, indeed, Daisy, does allow me to be devil's advocate way more than other people are comfortable with, where I'm like,
I can relate.
Exactly. Where I'm just like, I'm just thinking through the possibilities here. Like, that possibility holds TI true. Like, you need to get me some SI evidence before I can rule that out. But people think that you're like saying like, no, I'm negotiating that this is how it's going to be.
A hot dog is no more a sandwich than cereal is a soup or pizza is a vegetable. And as we talked about earlier, I am a vegetable, therefore I am also a pizza.
I have opinions about all of those things, but yes.
Okay.
Renee is a pizza.
He does have opinions about all those things. I'll hear about them later.
Very technical opinions about all those things.
I'll stop you guys from hearing about
very
them.
Technical TI validations of all those, any possibilities. But anyway,
okay.
We've only answered the SE Queen because we had other great questions from our people in the chat. Thank you for being here with us. It's great. We've been talking for over 40 minutes.
I know. We should
we've got stuff to share, folks.
This is why we're married, is because we talk about the same thing over and over forever and ever. So we'll have to remember that, like, you guys probably only want to hear about one question for so long. So I don't know, you're subscribed to this guy, so
we'll see if you like it. If you're watching this in the future and you like it, like the video, leave us a comment. Let us know that you'd like to see more of Renee, obviously. But would you like to see us talking more like this, or would you prefer
me to just go away?
Would you prefer me talking to a camera, cutting out all my ums and ums, and adding, goofy orange text to everything?
So
then the SE Queen, Jana Lee, we call her the SE. We call Laura the SI Queen because she keeps a directory of interest, and we call Jana the SE Queen because she has this document where she keeps track of all the officially teched people, and it's amazing.
Beautiful skills, ladies.
It's amazing. She asks, what is it like to have TI, save your TI first, but only single activated since it is in your sleep last? And Jana also has been a follower of the channel. She says, you thought you were masculine sensory and surprised when typed as FSI. What have your insights been from this? So we'll take them one at a time. The first question, what's it like to have save your TI first, but only single activated since it is in your sleep last? So this means that if we talk about animals, which is a thing in objective personality, sorry for any MBTI people who are feeling lost, there's lots of great videos on my channel that you can watch about this, and that will be coming up. when I get time to edit. So what is it like to have saber-tooth? So to start with, my first animal is TI and NE, right? It's making introverted thinking judgments about extroverted intuitive observations. But then making introverted thinking judgments with my first function pairs then with introverted sensing observations in my last animal with all my feeling in between. So what's that like? It's real confusing. It's real confusing. It means that first I spend time thinking out what the possibilities could be and making these like stacks of this is true, that's true, this is false, that's true, this is false, therefore this abstract possibility is true or false. And then what I want to do then, what my TI wants to do is then move to the introverted sensory, like these objects here now, how do all those weird abstract possibilities apply to these objects in the here and now? But on the way to getting to that, my extroverted feeling gets involved and wants to play with the tribe about those possibilities, and then wants to blast the feelings around these objects before we can get to logically working them out with the TI. So I've had that experience a lot where I'm like, think I'm onto something, and then I'm like, oh no, it's gonna be, I have to keep myself under control. I can't let myself, because especially the second function, the play, the NEFE play, like I feel like the play is doing me. Like instead of I'm doing the play, I feel like the play is doing me.
Actually,
I feel like I'm out of control.
We learned he was play second because we actually thought he was consumed sleep. Since then, Steve has been having more fun. Like he was worried when he was caught up in play that he wasn't like resting, and now we realized that like the fear of resting was actually because of the sleep last, not because it was just really interesting.
A whole journey of animal types, which I have a video that I haven't released yet because I made it, but I still have to edit it because editing takes a lot of time.
Like really overwhelming.
Editing takes a lot of time, and then my real people job took over. So,
but can I summarize what I think your TI being split like that is like?
Sure. What's your reaction?
I always bust his chops when we're in front of people, but I don't actually do this when we're alone. But I would say it makes your TI. Okay, fine. It makes your TI a lot more tolerable because
hot take.
You are, self TI time. Here's my logic thoughts, but you then like remember about people, like whereas I think like
I was FE looking at the tribes.
That's okay. I also have been doing that. This is a very interesting thing because I'm like, oh, I want to listen to you, but there's also people over here.
Live streaming.
So yeah, that's all I really have to say.
Say it again so I actually hear it.
I think that you have your TI DI time and sort of like logic over my head, not logic over my head, you logic into my head, like bang, bang,
logic
bang.
At you.
And then
hammer away.
And then you remember that I'm a person, and then we can like have fun. Like people always perceive Steve as like extremely serious or extremely fun, depending on what context they met him in. And that's like a very interesting.
And I'll add there, in terms of context, one context, the day job, which I've started to refer to a couple times, I am a software project manager, business to business procurement software. It's so boring, and it makes money because boring makes money. Another context, the context that I met Renee in, is improv comedy and local theater. It's how we met. Like, making funnies for either drunk people or little kids.
So Steve finding out he's consumed play has been really helpful because it explained this like pull in two different directions that I think he's always felt. And no, seriously, you've been like so much more relaxed, and have stopped like trying to have like a grip hold on your schedule because you've been like, yeah, I'm bad at sleep and I'm going to accept that.
Yeah, it's like, oh, tonight I slept, and it's like, oh, before I was like, I need to sleep. I need to go to bed at 10. So I actually fall asleep by 11 so that I wake up by 7 and I'm ready for work. I have to do that. I have to do it because otherwise I'll go nuts. And now I'm like, oh, I fell asleep on the couch at 9 o'clock and then I woke up at 11. Well, not 11. Fell asleep at 9 o'clock and woke up at like 12:30. And then I go, you know what? That actually is enough sleep for tonight. Guess I'll just like watch some YouTube videos and get a head start on some emails. And actually, I can go throughout the day, and then the next day I sleep a normal 8 hours.
I call it his Benjamin Franklin sleep because apparently Benjamin Franklin slept like half the night and then woke up and worked and then slept the other half of the night. I don't know where. I think I got that information from you.
Me.
You know that I've been calling it that, right?
Yes, I know.
Okay.
Yes, I told you about Benjamin Franklin wanted people not to use their.
I wouldn't know anything if it wasn't for Steve. He tells me everything I know, and then I don't have to go figure it out. It's great.
Consume all the information on the internet.
Anyway,
all that to say that, yeah, having TI split lead, as I like to call it, means that there's all this feeling that has to happen, and particularly it's the feeling demon. It's the extroverted feeling demon. It's the thing that I'm like, I'm not in control. I'm afraid. I'm gonna. Other people are mad at me, and realizing that like, no, actually, that actually has to happen. In order for me to get to the TISI, in order for me to get into the part where I'm like, these material objects, here's how we logic them correctly. In order for me to get to that, I do have to play with the try. I have to trust that I'm going to use my 4FE. And even though it feels like the play is happening to me, it feels like I'm not in control, actually other people are perceiving me as in control.
Yeah.
They're perceiving me as deciding how the play is going to go and saying how the dance is going to be and all that, even though to me, it just feels like it's happening to me. And then me blasting out my feelings about these specific objects, which often happens to Renee at the end of the day. And I apologize for it every time I do it, but saying like, this is what I've been having to deal with, and here's how and other people are like this, and they're like that, and they're like this, and their feelings. Yeah, then that comes out. But all of that before I think before I got diagnosed as a CPBS, before I got typed as CPBS as my animal type, which is kind of an unusual sort of INTP, I thought that, I have to keep a lid on myself. I have to keep a very careful lid on myself. And now I realize like, oh no, that's going through that childlike feeling is part of how I get to finishing the logic. I actually have to do that to finish the logic. So I want to say, hi, Andre. Thanks for being here. You're welcome for the laughs. We like laughs. We like laughs a lot. Yeah, we got some.
Let's see. I think we're mostly updated on
great.
What we got the people's talkings about.
Yeah, thanks for being here and talking, peoples. We appreciate it. We've been talking for nearly an hour.
I know, that's why I was like scrolling down, because I'm the one that has more of a sense of time. So whatever you think that means about my type.
If you can guess Renee's type,
let me know, but I know exactly how long things take.
If you can guess Renee's type, feel free to put it in the chat, or if you're in the future, feel free to comment on the video and let us know what you think Renee's type is, and if you'd like to see more of Renee, because Renee, this will be
don't like me at all.
This will be the second video that Renee has been on the channel. So let us know. Further in the Facebook questions that people are kind enough to give us.
You was boy. You boy.
Was boo. What inconsistencies you see in OP? We talked a bit about that. We talked a bit about that. How do you use? Well, I'll talk about one other. It's not really an inconsistency, but a criticism of OP. Let's go on and criticize Dave and Shan. No, Dave and Shan are great. We're grateful for the community that they provide, all the content that they provide. But if I were to put a criticism of, well, this goes along with what I said earlier about them, about trying to make it science and how I'm not as concerned about trying to make it science. Dave and Shan, when they're typing a celebrity once a week, they have to give us a type at the end. when you pay for their typing service, they have to give you a type at the end. And it's tricky for them to say it could be this, but it could be that. There are points where if you look at, for instance, the document of officially typed people that Jana keeps, there are just some types that there are lots of examples of them. And there are other types where there aren't as many examples. That was actually Jana's second question, which we didn't really answer, which was me being typed as feminine sensory, but having thought that I had masculine sensory. Part of that is they have a whole lot of examples of people who are my exact type, FFTINE, CPBS. They don't have many examples of MFTINE, CPBS. So it's harder to compare. It's harder to say like you're like that person if they don't have as many of those people to compare you to. So that's not necessarily an inconsistency in OP, but it is an area where I get concerned. I get concerned for the model of like, is it getting skewed towards certain types that they recognize very clearly? And
it's like seeing yourself represented in media, but instead it's OP.
A little bit, but yeah, I just get concerned of like,
not TI accurate enough.
Is everyone who they've assessed as my exact type, FFTINE, CPBS, are they all that exact type, or are half of them actually MF, or are a third of them actually MF, and just they've slotted them to FFTINE, CPBS because that was easier. That gives this person who paid for a type, that gives them a type to think they are, that gives them a definite answer. You know, when we need a type for the celebrity, that gives you a definite answer. That's the thing I'm concerned about. Another not really inconsistency, but just thing that would be cool is like, if Dave and Shan did their celebrity typings like Newlywed Game style, if they came out and actually were like, okay, we're gonna open our envelopes and show which type we wrote down in advance it was. I don't know if they'll do that. That's a lot of pressure to put on, but that would be like the step to make it scientific, right? If we really cared about making it scientific.
It also would make it an engaging reality show. That would actually be really good.
That would be a lot. And who knows, maybe Dave and Shan just like, you know, they've been clear that they've grown this as much as they want to grow it, and they don't want to grow it faster without having infrastructure there, which is understandable. But that's definitely a step to me that like, if you want it to be respected by scientists as science, then writing down your answers separately and having someone else verify that you actually did write down the same answer separately before you got together in front of a video camera, that would be a pretty important step to that, right? So that's, on the one hand, I'm like, this could be more scientific. Again, as I said earlier, I'm not actually that invested in it being science. I'm more invested in it being helpful as direction.
OP in real life.
How do you use OP in real life? Exactly. How do I use OP in real life? So I don't use it constantly. It's more like a thing that occurs to me. Renee and I will be sitting there.
You don't use it constantly?
Yeah, like you and I will be. I don't like meet a person and start analyzing them.
I see what you're saying. I think I do, but I can't not, like, as soon as, like, even if we watch like a different YouTuber or meet someone in real life, I'm like
I think you think about what type of, I think you think about types of people even separate.
That's true. I'm constantly like, who is this person? How can I adapt to them? What do they need? Like that's some of my initial thoughts when I meet or encounter anyone.
Yeah.
So now I just have OP as
a framework.
As a framework, yeah.
A useful framework for reference.
Yeah, and you don't do that. You're like, I don't feel like doing that work unless I give any craps about them.
I almost think of it, and this is a very any savior thing. I think of it almost as like surfing. As just like, I'm just out there in the world going along, and then suddenly a wave of OP stuff comes up, and I'm like, oh, I can catch that wave. So we'll be watching a movie, and we'll be looking at these characters in it, and I'm not thinking about OP. I'm just watching a movie, and then the character does something, and I'm like, oh, that's definitely an FI thing or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, that will be like, oh yeah, OP explains that very well. Again, me being less concerned with OP is like, this is the scientific truth and I'm going to prove it. And more just like, oh, this is an interesting framework that accounts for certain things that weren't accounted for under MBTI, or, you know, it's just a way of saying like, oh, you're this kind of a person and you're that kind of a person. And this is why those kinds of people interact together that way. and why I react to them in a certain way.
With our experience with theater too, we actually talk about how OP could be used as like a theatrical characterizing
Yeah.
Template, basically.
Yeah.
But that's very specific.
That's
I know
very specific.
Daisy does theater stuff, so I
Yeah.
bet I'd be curious to know what you personally think about that. But yeah.
Speaking of Daisy, Daisy's in Team NI as far as Renee's Renee's possible type. Thanks for that, Daisy.
And
but yeah, on the future of OP. So that's one thing that we're interested in as theater people and watchers of movies and stories and stuff is to us. I mean, we haven't talked about this really before, but I've definitely seen people improvising on stage who are clearly just doing their demons. That's a benefit of doing improvised theater, specifically improvised comedy, is you can do your demon as a joke.
Art is to process the things that are kind of icky.
Yeah.
So.
And we're just going to talk at a high level. We don't have to delve into everything improv is, but if you're doing improv comedy, you might come out and initiate a scene. So a way I might do that is I might come out and just start yelling at the other person on stage and being angry at them about something. And that's clearly like my 4FE being expressed, because improvised theater is a place where you can do that, because you start a scene and you're a new person in a new world doing whatever. And then 2 minutes later, it's done. And like, you just move on and do something else. And you do so many of them, you can barely even remember.
You can fart out your feelings.
Yeah. You don't have to be concerned that people are going to hold it against you, because you've all come together with the understanding that you're trying to have fun together. You're trying to make each other look good as improvisers. You're trying to make a good show together. And I just see a lot of people who are one way on stage and then who are just a seemingly opposite way when you're talking to them before or when you're talking to them after, if you go out for a drink or a meal after an improv show or after a class, which people do. It's part of why we got to know each other in the improv comedy community. It's a nice community to be a part of. But yeah, you'd see these like opposites where people would just clearly be doing their demons on stage as part of improvised comedy. And it's a good place for that. So it's interesting. A place we could take in the future is thinking, how do we deliberately play different functions? I mean, there's been lots of great videos going around about 16 personalities, and Lindsay Johnson, noted member of the objective personality community, she does those videos where she's doing it as the cognitive functions. She's like specifically trying to get people to think, okay, this very INTJ of her, very NISC, that she's like, okay, these 16 personality, but these 16 personality videos you're doing, the SE of this 16 personalities video, we need to get those into the idea of cognitive functions and into this more NITE correct way of doing things, which is super interesting. So yeah, that's the thing we can think about doing, is how do you tell stories with the functions? How do you make characters out of the functions? How do you apply that to storytelling, which is cool. We have another speculation. We have another speculation about Renee's type.
The NF or the NS thing seems very up for debate for some reason.
Yeah, Daisy just said NI. We got Veronica now saying SF.
With the typing group that I like submitted to for them to practice their things, it was like split right down the middle with S and N. So
which of course, I mean, again, everybody does everything. We're not I'm going to finally use the handedness metaphor. We're not talking about whether you have a right hand or a left hand. You have both hands. The question is, do you use your right hand more? Do you use your left hand more? That's an any analogy for what we're doing with cognitive functions, right? It's not, do you have this? Are you S or are you N? It's how often are you N? How often are you S? Which is tricky, isn't it? Daisy says, yes, I'm swimming in my wonky FE with theater film. Feels almost dangerous in a way sometimes, if that makes sense. Yes, Daisy.
You feel that way a lot, yeah.
Feels super dangerous. Like I said earlier, it feels like the FENE play, it feels like it's happening to me. Doesn't feel like I'm doing it. It feels like it's happening to me. And then, after a show, an improv comedy show where, we're making it up as we go, people will talk about the decisions I was making, and how I was driving the scene, and making that it was going to happen a certain way. And I was like, I was just trying not to freak out because like it was just all happening. Like there's definitely a point where it's like, even though from the outside, it's clearly I am making the decisions about how the feelings are going to be, where on the inside, I'm just like, what? So yeah, big relate from the type twin there. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Improv comes normally, I believe, because of Annie and feels therapeutic for NF Gone Wild. Exactly, Daisy. Exactly.
Oh, I see. I was like, children and dogs allow people to do their demons too, acting stupid, silly, gooey baby talk. Yes, like
yes, Wolfhound. Wolfhound knows.
As a Wolfhound. Talking about dogs. But yeah, like that is so true. Like we have a 1.5-year-old, and I've also been a nanny in the past. And the way that people act around kids and animals is extremely revealing.
They reveal them true selves. Well,
and they act like gooey weirdos. Like that's so.
But
true.
they act like gooey weirdos in different ways.
Yeah. What kind of gooey weirdo are you? What kind of goo are you?
Welcome to Renee's ASMR channel, where she tells you what a gooey weirdo you are.
Are you a pickle? Are you a pizza? Are you a hot dog? Are you a sandwich? I hope you're actually laughing because you like it, and I'm not just ruining everything with the weird things I say.
I'm an S sometimes. Sometimes I'm an S, but I'm never a pickle.
A pickle is both a cucumber and a pickle. A pickle is a cucumber, but a cucumber isn't always a pickle. I think I'm funny.
You are funny. Let me taking up so much screen real estate to try to engage all the people who are so engaging and talking to us. Thank you for talking to us. We got through most of you all's Bo's questions, but the last one is, did OP really do Young justice? We've alluded to this a little bit, that we think that OP really brought back the idea of, well, I think, I won't speak for you. I'll let you agree or disagree, Renee.
Oh, me? But I don't know anything about Young. I just let you.
She knows what I tell her. Yeah. From what I Googled about Young.
Yeah. That's what she knows. Even Steve doesn't know where he's gotten the Young information. Like he just has absorbed it over time. No, yes.
I mean, the whole topic. People talk without citations on the internet a lot. Which is also a thing in my videos, that I try to cite things. You'll see references in my videos to specific things Jung has said, to Dr. John Beebe, to Personality, to Personality Hacker. I try to like cite where I'm pulling this stuff. A lot of people just like talk through content on the internet.
The NE in its purest form, go watch some Beebe. Like we watched a little Beebe the other day. I watched it. Like usually he's watching more of that stuff on his own, and I was like,
look up Dr. John Beebe, who's the guy who really talks about using all 8 functions as opposed to just using 4 functions. Yeah. Dr. John Beebe, he's just NE for days, man. NE in circles all the time. But did OP really do Young justice? I think that Young Justice sounds like a movie. Did OP really do Young justice? I think that they definitely went further than Jung went, and they build on a lot of things that are in between them and Jung, like the Grant stack, like the grip of the 4th function.
What's the Grant stack again?
I won't go into it right now. There's other videos on it, but there's other things that are foundational to how OP is structured, that if you read Jung are like less structured, or like more, he's talking about like, well, it could be like this, it could, what I've read of Jung. Again, I haven't exhaustively read all the Jung. I'm not a scholar of Jung in particular, but even the little bits I have read, the little bits of video that there are on the internet that you can find of Jung talking, he's not as systematic, and he doesn't have abbreviations and numbers and formulas the way OP does. So I do think that OP continues on work that other people between Jung and Myers-Briggs and up to Dave and Chan, that they do solidify a lot of that. I think especially on the introvert and extrovert, they show the range of that in a very interesting way, and get back to the introvert and extrovert functions that Jung was really talking about, the introvert and extrovert types that Jung was really talking about, more so than just the shy and outgoing types that it gets reduced to in MBTI sometimes. But Jung, well, I was about to say Jung didn't talk about sexuals, but that's not actually true. Jung actually did say stuff about about men having an anima, about having sort of an inner aspirational spirit kind of associated with the fourth function, and women having an animus, and it always being the opposite function, or the opposite gender, but sometimes not the opposite gender, it turns out. There's a lot of stuff like that where Jung just isn't as defined about it, where OP is very defined, and there you wonder, is it so defined? Because David Chang will say, in our observation, it is that defined. If your first function is masculine, then your fourth function is feminine, and that's how we observe it. And you wonder, is that definitely how it is, or is it because their system would become much more complicated very quickly if they added that in? So there's room for playing to think there. Again, I'm less concerned about scientifically testing, is it accurate? Although if we do talk about it as science, then my TI is like, no, you have to explore that any perfectly logically accurately. But I also have the out of saying, like, I'm concerned about the storytelling, the self-help of it, the personal mythology of it, more so than the science. So did it do Jung justice? I don't think it does Jung disjustice. I don't think it does disservice to Jung. Some disjustice.
Justice League.
OP is not a miscarriage of justice to Jung. I think it's faithful to a lot of stuff about Jung, but it is a very particular view of Jung's work that a lot of that there are Jungians who might not agree with because of things like the grand stack and like the grip of the fourth and all this other stuff that happened along the way that in the internet didn't get cited very well and just got all kind of shoved together into this melting pot of MBTI cognitive functions. Cool. See you, Bloodfang. Thanks for being here.
Bloodfang is Batman, and he had to go do his Batman thing.
And do the Batman thing. That's the bottom of that question thread. Thank you, folks, for all of your questions.
What time are you planning to start?
An hour and 12 minutes ago, apparently. Wow. Close this one out. Go back here quickly. This question, I think, will come up later in the thread as well. Late to the chat, did you talk about your favorite INTP actor? Gates on FB. Hey, Gates. Later, Gates. Good to see you. The Wolfhound is later, Gates.
Oh.
I made that connection. Who is your favorite INTP actor? I think this comes up further down. I will scroll back up, I swear. Oh, yeah, there we go.
Who's your INTP celebrity?
INTP celebrity, thank you. Pardon while I scroll around. So the favorite INTP celebrity or actor. So I don't really go looking for INTP celebrities, although there are plenty. Heracles heading out. Thanks, Heracles. Yeah, people are having to head out because we've been talking for over an hour.
Yeah, we're long-winded.
We're long-winded. Favorite INTP celebrity. There are, well, let's see who's there. There's Bill Gates. Elon Musk is a jumper INTP. The one that I think is the funniest, some of you may know it from my first video, Jake Gyllenhaal. Is Jake Gyllenhaal my twin, or is he not? Go ahead and find that first video and look for it. Which one would I say is my favorite?
I mean, the one that we feel like you're most like when we watch videos is Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah, he's not an actor. He's
not an actor.
He's a politician.
But when we watch the people, the INTPs, it's like kind of freaky how they move the exact same way, and the way that like he follows one thought to the next is really similar. Yeah,
the way that he kinesthetically moves, the way that he talks and forms sentences, the way he moves his eyebrows, the way he will make jokes, and the way he'll like put pressure on people and take pressure off people. I'm like, oh, that was too much. Like,
Yeah, he does do that.
there's
He's
stuff
like,
like
am I
that.
being fun? I don't know.
This is what being fun is like. Oh, actually, there you go. My favorite INTP actor celebrity character would be Data from Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Yeah.
I don't know how many folks know this meme. Let me see if I can find it real quick. But it's
Okay.
one that, yes, there the classic is. Let me see if I can get this. Can I get it on screen? Can I manage it?
Memes, they're worth waiting.
Memes. The goodness that is memes.
This is when Steve's job really comes in handy, is just like his life is just responding to emails and screen sharing.
Screen sharing.
And here he goes. He's gonna share his screen. Will it work?
Will it work?
Drum roll.
There we go. This is the meme to share.
Oh, cool. Look at you. You're so good at stuff.
There we go. This is a meme. Again, hard to cite stuff because on the internet stuff gets passed around and never really attributed to the original source. But this is a nice little meme to differentiate INTJs from INTPs. And I'm sure there are people all over the internet disagreeing about these types, but that's fine. I do find that this is an intuitive difference between INTJs and INTPs that feels really, really relevant. Just INTJs are like a human being, but they're kind of cold and robotic. And then INTPs are like,
you're my warm machine.
Yeah. It's like, oh, warm and good humored. And then you're like looking for like the real human emotion. And you're just kind of like, oh, I am sorry. Is this what humans do? I apologize. I did not mean to mislead.
Yeah.
You must be offended. Oh, no, I'm not offended. I'm not capable of being offended. I do not have an emotion circuit.
Just to say, we have a Pete Who question. Pete Buttigieg.
Pete Buttigieg.
Politician.
Let's see. Let's go really.
I do not know how to spell his name. That is such a name. Like,
such a name. Pete Buttigieg is the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, and was a presidential hopeful who now is in the cabinet. I think he's Secretary of Transportation.
Like, isn't his face kind of your face?
It's weird how he's like, yeah.
Yeah. I wonder
Different
how tall
but
he
similar.
is. Like, I wonder if he's your same height too.
Yeah, I don't know. I
He
think
looks
he's
like
or
he
something.
would be.
The other one who's completely unconfirmed. Completely unconfirmed is Christian Slater, but you can see this is him kind of when he's older, but you can kind of see he's the only celebrity comparison I have ever gotten. And him in his younger days and his weird movements are also a thing that I've been compared to at times. There are a lot of questions here that have already been discussed, but that is a good one. Let's share. Let's share again. Let's do
all this sharing.
So much sharing.
So nice.
Sharing is caring, guys. Sharing is
such a fee.
So Elsa asks, interactions with other INTPs. Have you had any in your daily life? How do you feel about other INTPs? We have a very good friend who's an INTP who is one of my groomsmen at our wedding, somebody who we've done a lot of improv comedy with. We met him through improv comedy, him and his wife. And he and I, even though we've known each other a long time and we're very good friends, it's also like sometimes like we don't know where to start.
They're passing ships sometimes.
Yeah, we both like serve the same function in the conversation. So sometimes we're like, so we're here. What do we talk about? Do you have feelings? Well, if you have feelings, then I have feelings about your feelings. So let's minimize the feelings.
I'm gonna go put our baby in front of some Elmo.
Please do.
Up and he's crying.
The baby woke up. The baby woke up, folks. We went an hour and 20 minutes though. Quite a while. Thanks, Gates. So, how do you feel about other INTPs? There's also a guy I work with who I'm pretty sure is an INTP, older dude, and I see a lot of people working in IT, working in software. It's a place where INTPs make a lot of sense because you are using introverted thinking to solve problems. Think about lots of different possibilities, think about different use cases. How should the software work? What kind of function should it serve? But SI, you're sitting in front of a screen, same sensory experience. Don't have to go outside in the world to support IT. You just have to know your code base, know your tools, and be able to apply them in lots of new different ways. And there's less feeling involved because people in IT usually aren't talking to people constantly, except for when they're project managers, like I am. Why did I do this to myself? Because of the money, that's why. Which gets to Elsa's second question: how is TI causing problems in your life? I don't know whether I see TI as causing a problem in my life. I definitely saw the lack of FE causing problems in my life, being concerned about how other people are going to feel. And it actually helped me a lot to clarify that I think about how other people feel before I think about how I feel, which gets to the next question also has: what about FI at the bottom? I'm very not good at identifying what I like. When people ask me, what's your favorite? I like blue screen, like got nothing for that. I can tell you something that I tried recently. If you ask me what's your favorite movie, I'll probably tell you about a movie that I watched recently. If you ask me what's your favorite food, I'll like, and then I'll talk about a food that I ate recently or that I eat a lot, because 3 SI comes before 4 FE. So I'll be able to remember sensory objects that I am familiar with, that I've deeply searched within for sensory details. But in terms of asking me, what do you like? What do you think is good and what do you think is bad? And I'll be like, well, it depends on what you think is good and bad. I can logically find true, false reasons and find any possibilities for all kinds of things. So it actually helped for me to realize that I think about other people's feelings before I think about mine. Often when I try to think about my feelings, think like, oh, I guess I'm angry, I guess I'm sad, I guess I'm happy. What I'd actually be thinking is, these other people are happy and I feel good about that. Or these other people I think are going to be mad at me, so I'm afraid. Or I think these other people are feeling happy about something that's going to bite us all later, so I feel mad about that. I feel like other people are taking things for granted, so I'm mad at them about that. It helped me to realize that my feelings are actually more often a reaction to other people's feelings, because 4 FE comes way before 8 FI. And it's actually important in my life to directly ask other people what their feelings are, to confirm what other people's feelings are. It actually turns out that's really important. For me to get from the TINE, I have to go to the NEFI. What are the possibilities of what other people could be feeling before I can go to the SIFE? What do people say their feelings are about the material objects in front of us, the material circumstances we find ourselves in? I need to make that known before I can move to TISE. How can I make logical sense of the material, the known? I actually have to get other people's feelings clarified. So having FI at the bottom can be it makes it difficult to say what my favorite is. But other than that, it can also kind of be a strength, because I can just keep doing what needs to be done, even if I don't like it. Joke several times about my job as an IT project manager. Once I get a vision of this is what we're trying to achieve, well, we got to keep doing that. I'm not having fun doing it. Doesn't matter. Things got to get done. That actually turns out to be a kind of superpower. And that's a great thing about OP and about cognitive functions in general, is realizing that different people are almost like different tools in the toolbox. And like the kind of instrument I am is for once we identify this logical thing needs to get done, find different ways of looking at the same material stuff until we get there. And it doesn't matter how I feel about the situation. When I get it done, I'll feel good about it. Elsa then asks what it's like to have any and give examples. Renee gave some of those a little bit earlier on. Adam says, congrats. I have to be thankful to Adam, aka Cresco, as well. His videos where he just kind of gets on with it encouraged me to just get on with it. And even though the day job gets in the way of having time to make videos and edit, still glad I did it. It's a nice FE bump from the tribe here. Christina, pal from the group, says real achievement. And ENT Scott asks SF play versus NF play, compare and contrast. The NEFE play, as I've said here a few times, it feels like it's happening to me. I don't necessarily feel like I'm in control, but then I've learned to discover that actually I need to trust in that actually I have more control over the situation, that other people will look at the situation and see me as in control more than it feels to me. And then SF play, I just don't gather a lot of stuff when I'm playing. I think that I think about what people could feel as opposed to thinking about what people are feeling about material stuff. I'm concerned about what people might feel about ideas more so than I'm concerned about what people say they are feeling about the things right in front of us.
You assume everyone has like a deep subtext.
I'd like people to have a deep subtext.
And I'm like, no, I don't think they do. You just assume more is going on about people. I don't know what the question is. I barge in without knowing all the information, right?
If you have a guess of what Renee's type is, let us know in the comments, people viewing in the future. Ian Scott asked SF play versus NF play, compare and contrast style. So for me, the NF play is thinking about what people might be feeling, what they might be feeling about abstract ideas, more so than thinking about what are they feeling about like what's actually happening.
I know what
stuff is right in front of us.
Once you find out what something is actually, you get very bored.
Oh, there's interest.
So like the idea of a person is often more intriguing to you than actually getting to know a person.
Yeah, people's goals and ideas and fantasies are, and like stories they tell themselves are more interesting to me than like, they just scored a goal. Like, I'm like, okay, cool.
This is why I'm very flattered that Steve chose and married me, because he doesn't like particularly like that, like people all that much. Like you like a group, like you're like a community is extremely important to Steve. But when faced with individuals, I think you're like, eh.
I think like
you like me, and I'm happy about that.
I'm more concerned about like this could make people laugh than when the whole theater's laughing. I'm actually like, okay, let's move on to the next.
Yeah, you're really judgmental about the specific things that people like. You're like, why do they like that? Why that?
Or even just I get bored about it.
Yeah.
I'm just like, why aren't we moving on to the next thing yet? Why aren't we moving on to the next unknown thing that could give people feelings yet?
And you're often a few steps ahead with an idea and people have trouble following you. And then the tribe is confused by you and then you feel very bad or confused or misunderstood.
Yeah. Which goes both ways. It's both a thing I have to manage in my life, that I have to make sure to actually appreciate what's actually happening rather than just move on to the next thing. I have to make sure that I do actually appreciate what's going on. Also, as a project manager, I have to make sure to celebrate the effort people have put in and the real results. But also, it's a little bit of superpower that I'm not overly impressed by the thing that happened. Sure. I don't get stuck on the victory lap or stuck in celebrating. I'm like, we got another thing to do. There's more coming. That can also be a superpower. So Again, a whole thing about OP is realizing what areas there are where you can be better, but also what areas there are that you're just like, yeah, I can just do that. That's not hard for me to do that part. It's interesting stuff. What is the significance of being the most extroverted INTP? I think I just talked about it a little. How does this compare and contrast to the archetype INTP? I think the archetype INTP, which people probably think of CSPB or CSBP, they think of some kind of mope.
I feel like the archetypical, is that a thing? INTP is the person who is like, feelings don't matter.
Yeah.
Didn't Oprah just do a video about that?
Oh, probably.
I think she mentioned something about how people are really dismissive of feelings when they're at the bottom of the stack. And yeah. I've never heard you think that, and that's something that you always work on, is appreciating that you need the community and need to acknowledge your own feelings.
I feel not allowed to not acknowledge other people's feelings in a way that some INTPs are just kind of like, yeah, they're stupid. But I think, yeah, I'm definitely familiar with the archetype of an INTP. There's a different group on Facebook that INTP is an INTP group that I've been part of like since college, which is a long time. As young as I look, it's been a long time since college. And so I see a lot of INTPs in that group. Some of them could be mistyped, but I do see a lot of archetypical like mope INTPs who are just so want to prove a logical point, and no, that's not what I said. I never said that this. The SI is not that. What I said was going off into any about something irrelevant, completely missing some factor of SE that was laid down. And just like blaming stuff on other people and not taking responsibility for feelings at all. Getting in TI spirals with each other.
Moping about being single. That's like a big, I mean, at least in your INTP groups, there's a lot of like, women. But
there's a lot of that.
Not to say that all INTPs are men, but I think that's like the majority of your groups.
There's a lot of that all over the internet, but there is a specific INTP flavor to that, which I always say to Renee as part of why I stay in that group, is to remind myself what flavor of asshole I am.
Yeah, that's always what he says. And I'm like, but you're so annoyed at the people in that group. And he's like, but I know so much now, and I'm looking in the mirror of the bad that could be. So
it is like an immersion therapy to be like, here are less mature people of the same or similar type, the same 16 type as me, most of them, and to see like, oh, this is what happens if you don't pay attention to your blind spots and make sure that you're on top of them. But how does it make a difference that I'm CPBS? There have been people in that group who are just doing the same kind of like noodling and sharing articles and weird Google searches and all that, and they're still complaining about being single, and still complaining about their student debt, and still complaining about hating their job, and still complaining about not having an area to do their hobbies. And I look at the intervening time, and I went out to a theater and took improv classes and dated and found my wife, and now I'm happy with my family, and my career has progressed, and I'm trying this thing out.
Not that everything can happen perfect and linearly, but
no, it certainly has not been perfect and linear. It's certainly been a lot of journeying and circling around, but I do see people kind of fulfilling an INTP stereotype of just going in the same circle over and over and over again, the same argumentative, messy, impractical circle. And me going in a messy, argumentative, impractical circle that has to get in people's faces every once in a while, which then provokes me to make, I guess, a little more progress. Not to talk badly about INTPs, though, because again, every type can be either a detriment or a superpower if you just use it in the right way. So I think MOPE INTPs, I mean, to the extreme, if you want to go all the way to Jumper, there's, of course, Elon Musk, who, has more money than anybody and is sending cars into space. So, there's definitely a superpower there.
Did you say sending cars into space? I don't know about that.
I'll show you stuff later.
What?
I'll show you stuff later about that. Yeah, Elon Musk, INT sending.
But why don't you just send a regular spaceship? That seems like the first thing I would do.
He makes cars. He makes spaceships. Send a car into space.
Why not?
Why not?
Why not?
Why not? So yeah, I think the
Oh.
CPBS does explain some ways that I'm different from a more stereotypical INTP.
Yeah.
Perhaps a little bit more like an ENTP, some would say, but not an ENTP for reasons that have to do with OP that we won't get into at this point. Ian just came in as we were talking about it. Or maybe he's been here lurking. But hey, Ian.
Big bro. That's nice. What a nice thing to say.
Oh, man. Yeah, exactly. That's what you want to do. You want to figure out how to, and that's the thing that's interesting to me about OP. Again, like finding how each type is a different instrument, a different tool in the toolbox, has a different function, has a different purpose. So that we're not
use that.
Yeah, so we're not expecting INTPs to do things that is like, no, you need an ESFJ for that. And we're not expecting ISFPs to do something that you need like an ENTJ for. I think that's the big win of OP and of Jungian cognitive functions in general, is just understanding, this is how you get further, is in this situation, you need these people. In this situation, you need these people. And that you put people where they are helpful instead of just being at cross purposes all the time.
Sorry, I just realized that IYO is in your opinion. I truly did not know that. It's also the TBH, to be honest. I forget every single time. I don't know what they are.
I think we may have reached, we're almost there. Almost to the bottom. We're so close. Yes, we're so close. We're so close to answering all your questions. An hour and 30 minutes in. I do want to acknowledge here at the top, I did quickly go over multiple questions that were submitted by Mark Chesser, only because we talked a lot of, he asked many general questions about INTPs that we addressed a lot of. So I do appreciate your questions. Mark, I hope that we answered.
Can we look at that bear just for a second?
Oh, yeah. You threw a bear up there. Congratulations. Thank you, Christina. From Rose, noted YouTuber in the community as well. Can you describe your consume piles? That to me is just like a hilarious way to talk about it. Before we talk about consume piles,
yeah,
Daisy's still with us. Hey, Daisy.
That's a good summary.
Yeah, stereotypical INTP has to be an SF disaster. Yeah, this is totally, this is really the stereotype. Not to say that I have never been an SF disaster. I have totally been an SF disaster at times. But as I kind of alluded to earlier, it's realizing that like, oh, I need to let the SF disaster out. I need to let the NF play and the SF blast. I need to let those two disasters out on my way to doing the TISI. So that's cool. Thanks for validating my type twin, Daisy. Thank you for validating that. But back to Rose's question about the consume piles, which I think is a hilarious way to phrase that. Are they curated around categories and certain problems, questions you are solving? What sort of things do you or have you perused? Some consume piles I have. My biggest vehicle of consume is likely the internet, because the internet makes it so easy for INTPs to just go pull in all the things, and different things I consume. I used to consume politics, but I don't care about them anymore. Lately, well, I mean, consuming OP and Jungian psychology is obviously a big thing, and the community makes so much to consume. There's so many interesting people talking about things, doing interviews together so that you can see what different types are like. Interesting stuff, along with David Chan from Objective Personality, who, put out so much content. It's amazing how much content they put out on a weekly basis, and other things. There's Dr. John Beebe with the 8 personalities. I found out recently that his book came out, like more recently than I thought it did, because he's been practicing for decades in the Jungian community, but he came out with a book I think like 5 years ago or something. Really? So I want to look into that. Talking about 8 functions and how they apply in storytelling and maybe even in film. So that's really interesting to me.
Do you need me to summarize the things that you like that you forgot about that you consume?
Let me try a few more. So I also just talk about storytelling in general and movies and TV and storytelling in general. So like YouTube is a big avenue. This is on YouTube right now, isn't it? Where watch video essays about like different types of characters, different types of character arcs, different types of stories, different things that we're watching lately. Recently, I've been consuming more stuff about finances and how to structure your finances and how different people structure their finances. And good Lord, there's so much SE and just taking in acronyms and figuring out how different financial instruments work. And
so many of those videos are like really terrible sales pitches too, where they want you to like buy something.
There is a lot of that where you're watching and you're like, okay, what information are you going to give me for free before you okay, you want me to sign up for your newsletter, and that's behind the paywall. Okay, I understand what you're doing. That makes sense. So there's a lot of that I'm looking at and trying to figure out now. I mean, business is a thing. I went to business school ages ago. Just thinking about like how the economy works as like kind of a big game that we're all born in and have to play whether we want to or not. That's definitely a thing that I think about. I play music. I think that would be, I don't actually consume that much music though. I play music more as an SF blast, as a way to put sensory structure around my feelings in literal airwaves and guitar tablature and piano keys, among other things. So, but yeah, what else do I consume?
You consume things about music theory, but you don't actually listen to as much music.
That's true.
Like you'll get fixated on one song or like one artist and you'll go down a rabbit hole, but you won't then like go back and listen again. You'll like listen one day and you'll listen to new things that a particular person puts out, but you don't re-listen or listen to albums.
Yeah, I will find music and then return to that music. That music will be kind of like an SI touchstone for a certain feeling, that when I'm feeling a certain feeling, then I want to listen to that song to clarify that feeling, I guess. But yeah, I don't spend a lot of time just listening to different music. I do spend time looking at YouTubers like Adam Neely is a YouTuber who I would like my YouTube videos to be like.
Yeah, they're so sharp.
Yeah, they're so sharp. He makes like 20-minute videos where he'll tell you something kind of mind-bendy about music, but in a very approachable way and something very pop culture relevant. And then it'll leave you with a concept that you're like, oh, so if I just know how to do this one little musical thing, I can apply that in so many contexts. Any galore with TI precision. Consume a lot of that. Definitely consume a lot of that. That's true. So those are some of my any piles kinds of things that I perused. Worst and best experience with being typed. I don't love, well, what did I not love about typing? What I did not love about the typing experience was having to race to put in your application. So that's the thing that I know is also tricky for people who, anybody who's not in the United States or anybody who has slower internet or just has any gate. I think some people had to do like multi-factor authentication to put in their credit card to get typed by Objective Personality by David Chan. And that, yeah, it would be nicer if there was some kind of, I mean, again, we don't want to just love criticism at David Chan because what they do is important and it's hard to do. It's not easy to do. I couldn't start doing it tomorrow and be up and running the way they are. So
I assumed that this question was like your experience with your personal type. Okay. But see, he has to cover every single piece of ground. And I'm like, all right. I didn't need to know that. But I mean, I think that what you're saying is valid and true and whatever.
But yeah, I do wish there was some way to kind of like add yourself to a queue to be considered or build up karma points to be like considered earlier.
I've seen a lot less complaints since they're doing speed typing.
Yeah.
Which I'm really happy because I was literally the last month that they were doing full typing. And I don't know what you would do without an audio. Like, I'm really curious about people's experiences.
We'll see. Because on the one hand, I think more people getting typed is a good thing.
Yeah.
It's almost like, this again goes back to business as one of the consume piles. They kind of are clarifying what their service is, that their service is really to type people quickly. I mean, within a month. So waiting a month for your results, also a thing that, be nice to have instant gratification, wouldn't it? But yeah, so waiting a month, but their service is really to get quick typing. And they kind of, when they started out, when Dave and Shannon, Objective Personality, started out, apparently they did a lot more like sharing audio, sharing tips, phone calls back in the day, which it's hard for them to have time to as the amount of people interested in it have grown. But really distinguishing that the typing is a different service than counseling, support, whatever we want to call that, talking to someone, talking about your type with someone who knows a lot about people of that type. That's just kind of a different service, a different thing to specialize in. It's hard for two people to do both the categorizing and the typing and to do the counseling, connecting, whatever you want to call that the engaging, whatever you want to call that other work that's involved. So I can understand there, but and then within the experience of getting typing, the feedback I got audio feedback from Dave. I had a little email back and forth with Shan. And the best thing about it was, for me, it was like a big affirmation, because I thought I was INTP since I was 12 and read Please Understand Me Too by David Kiersey, or when my INFP mother gave it to me and was like, I need to know what type you are. So I've identified with INTP for a long time. So then to get the feedback of, oh yeah, you are an INTP. It's like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
And then also to get the additional information of CPBS to be a SCIB INTP. It's like, wait, I'm a SCIB? How does that make any sense? And then it's like, well, you do improvised theater, and in college I was in like 4 different clubs and raising money for causes and doing stuff, and like often I feel like I'm not doing that much, and then I look back and go, oh my gosh, how did I accomplish all that? So yeah, the SCIB part then makes sense. The sleep last, which at first we were like, how can I be sleep last? I'm so sleepy. And I was like, duh, you feel sleepy because you're not sleep processing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I would say,
so yeah, worst part of that is the application is tough to get into. The waiting is, and then getting the feedback. It would be great if somebody in the community focused on doing the counseling part of the service, whatever we want to call that. That again, Dave and Shan have moved away from that to focus more on just the getting people typed. It'd be great to have people who are focusing on how do I help you in this type develop specifically, which is a tricky thing to do because there are a lot of people who then just want to lay their problems on you, which isn't really the point, right? But best things about it are that it was very, very affirming for me, and then it did but also gave me new information about myself. That gave me a new point of view on myself that was interesting and helpful. So, yeah.
I think one thing I'll say about my experience with getting typed and not this whole situation I'm in where I'm going to get retyped.
I'll give just a little bit of background there, which is that so where I got typed as an INTP at like 12 and had a lot of Myers-Briggs experiences that like, yeah, my mom gave me the test at 12.
Oh, at 12. I was like at 12 o'clock.
At 12 years of age, my mom wanted to test me, and was like, okay, INTP was the type that made the most sense. And then I had like a lot of MBTI tests and different kind of things that affirmed it over time. So then this was very affirming for me. you had much less exposure to MBTI and it had like
Yeah, we
different
sort of
results at
pieced
different
together
times.
what we thought that I was, and we've been having so many conversations for the past 2 years,
You know,
assuming my type.
assuming a certain type.
So it took me like 2 days to be like, what the heck? And like, obviously, Dave and Shan agreed to retype me based on it just not sitting right, and I not relating to that type. And one of the things for me that was an odd experience, I can't really say it's good or bad, is that a lot of the audio feedback, my interpretation was that they were saying a lot of things I wasn't. So they were like, because of what you said, we don't see an observer freak out. But they also said that they didn't see any decider freak out either. So
Renee's too good at stuff.
I think, I mean, in my second video, I was like, I'm really good at masking stuff. Like, in my personal opinion, I'm super chameleon and I can pretend I'm very calm when I am not. So a lot of the feedback was, you are not this, and it's really hard to take action or know what to do with the negative. Like, you know how to take action when you know that you are this way, but I was getting what I am not.
Yeah.
So
yeah, just kind of relating things of like, this will be helpful to you because you're like this person, and then us listening to that and going like,
I'm not like
that does not
person.
seem
Yeah,
applicable to
that was
Renee.
weird. And like, that's the thing, is I'm like, well, I'm, hopefully not a townsfolk, and I am extremely open-minded to possibilities. But this particular type was like, that was not a possibility, and I'm really confused.
Well, it could be a possibility. It would just be really odd. It would mean that we thought we understood this much of humanity, but actually we only understood this much, and there's all these other people who are much more extreme on certain spectra than we thought they were.
I hope you guys enjoy this vague booking. I guess it's vague YouTubing. But yeah.
Well, I mean, to say like they typed me as feminine sensory, and I was like, I thought I was masculine sensory. Well, maybe they're just people who are much more masculine in the sensory than I am, and who I've been exposed to. It was kind of like that, where if what they typed Renee as is the case, then it's like, oh wow, we must really not be seeing a whole way out, a whole range of the spectrum that's out there, and we have to look harder for it. Or it could be that like just the model they have, the people they have to go off of, that Renee doesn't fit very well with those examples. So, which is exciting, because that means Renee is an example of a type that isn't well represented. That would be very good.
That would be really interesting.
Very curious to see what Dave and Shan will say in the near future about that. But we're also curious if you think you know. You think you know what Renee is. Put it down in the comments. Put your guess in the comments, because we're curious what people think. Because it's been pretty all over the board. So yeah, worst and best experience getting typing. I think getting typed by objective personality specifically can be like a great experience and affirming if it's like, yeah, I did think that was my type. Oh, those are problems I have to deal with. And it can be a really weird experience if it's like, that doesn't sound like me. That sounds like somebody else. That I don't relate to this. This doesn't give me a lot to go on. And I think the way forward with that is, I think it's good that Dave and Shan do more typing, that they type more people, that we get more examples to compare against, that we can find, that we have more data to look for patterns in. I think it's also good that other people try to do typing, which I don't know that many people who do typing. I actually know internet famous examples of people who have said, I'm not interested in doing the typing, like Dario Nardi, who does brain scanning correlated with MBTI types. That I remember him saying, finding a video of him talking and him saying, I'm really not interested in typing people and, like being their personal mentor for their specific whatever they're dealing with.
You're taking on people's burdens and basically signing up to be a therapist, or them trying to use you as a therapist.
There's a lot of people out there using this as an avenue of like, aha, you are the person who will take my burden for me, and ultimately you got to take your own burden. That's all it is. Similarly, the personality hacker folks, Antonia and Joel, I think their names are, and they have a lot of video content out there. They look at other systems like Enneagram. They have, I think it's profiler trainings they call it, where they present their findings of different personality types that they've counseled and talk about what has been helpful to those people. But they're like, no, we don't type you. We'll tell you about what the types are, and you decide what works for you. But they're not really interested in being a typing service. There's questionnaires on the internet, and I just find them incredibly unreliable. You can sort of take them and think like, okay, I'm going to prove that I'm an ISFP. I'm going to answer questions like an ISFP, and then you can just make that happen. So it's tricky to try to make science out of something that essentially is about storytelling. Which of these problems do you relate to more? Which of these competencies do you think that you are overusing more? That I think is more what it's about than about the science. But anyway, yeah, typing, getting typed.
Is there one more question? Yes.
I think,
Okie dokie. Where is this? It's right here.
It's right here.
There was a question about me in the chat.
There is a question about you in the chat. Do you agree with the modality
That
you were
Chan gave me?
assigned? So that's part of it is, so we don't want to get too spoilery on what Renee's typing.
We are hoping to
we want to give you a chance.
Once we have all the information, hoping to do fun videos.
Yeah.
Which will never get finished because editing takes forever. And when you don't edit, you end up with this mess. So.
But if you like this mess, tell us in the comments.
Yeah, do you like our personal mess?
We can come on and talk for a shorter amount of time about more focused topics. Yeah, that's something that we're interested to do if we can do it with the time and resources that we have. But yeah, does Renee agree with the modality? And one reason Sadie says that is because your animal can affect how you see your type. Mm-hmm. I've heard this. But this goes back to my whole my two heresies that I listed earlier in the video, and my second heresy being that I think that Dave and Shan just focus really hard on the masculine, and then the feminine needs more description, more looking at it. They often talk about the masculine functions in masculine terms, and then talk about the feminine functions in masculine terms. And I think having more feminine viewpoint would help account for a lot of people. So does Renee agree with her modality? That would be spoilery to tell you. But we could think about that and think about what, thank you for sharing that, Sadie Mae, that the animal can affect how you see your type. We can think about how that affects how Renee sees her type.
I definitely will think about that.
Part of this is that Renee didn't really care what her type was until she got a type back that she really didn't relate to. And then was like, well, come on now. So that's why we're interested to see what Dave and Shan will come back with.
I'm remembering in my initial response in my email to Dave and Shan, I think I said, I was open to getting a lot of types, including what I think my own mother is. But this is not what I thought that I was. And I still really don't identify with the first type they gave me. And maybe they'll come back and be like, you don't see yourself. You are that type. And I'll be like, okay, fine.
Maybe.
Fine. But
maybe. But coming back to a theme that we mentioned at the top was we're very grateful to Dave and Shan for the content they put out, the community they've built, the ideas they put out there. At the same time, we want there to be space for people to disagree with Dave and Shan in a friendly and helpful way, in a way that's not like, well, Dave and Shan are wrong, so this whole system is wrong. But instead to say, we think Dave and Shan have this part super on lock. We think that maybe they don't have as much focus in this area, and maybe fleshing out focus here would help better reflect what they have so dialed in another area. which I think is also what they're about, why they don't want to grow their business faster than what is sustainable. They want more people to engage. They've been tremendously supportive of different YouTube channels around OP and different people getting into it and kind of developing their piece of it, because there's so much to do with this stuff. There's so many business needs to meet if you look at it with that hat on. Sadie has a guess. Have the guess and then can't wait for the missing information. That's right. That's right. Put your guesses in the comments and let us know.
Or tell us like a secret later. That would be fun too. This is fun for me. This makes it better that I've been so confused.
Well, yeah.
Now the tribe
Sadie
gets to
May
be
now.
confused with
The
it.
tribe gets to be confused along with you.
It'll be fun.
For Sadie May now, but also for people watching this later, feel free to put your guesses in the comments. And watch this space. Keep watching the channel for upcoming videos to find out more about Renee's type, to find more about INTPs and me and my INTP thoughts, and whatever Renee's type turns out to be, what that says about her type and how her type relates to INTPs, and what that says about INTPs like me. But now we've been talking for 2 full
We gotta
hours.
stop.
When our child needs attention, we've been neglectful parents.
Elmo, he's great.
Yeah, he took a nap and now he's watching Elmo, and he's great. But now we'll go say hi to our baby.
2 hours.
So thank you,
guys.
OP Tribe, for your FE validation that I so crave.
Good question.
Super appreciate it. Hope that you benefit from my perspective. If there are other things that you want to talk about, let us know in the comments. If you'd like to see me and Renee just answer questions more often in an unstructured way, feel free to let us know in the comments. It doesn't have to be 2 hours. It can be shorter than that.
We'll make it shorter than that.
But if you'd like for this to be a regular and predictable thing, let us know. And if we can, we'll try to facilitate that. We all have limited resources, but we'll do our best.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ian. Ian was one of the first people I talked to about my type, because he's part of a typing pool where when you get typed officially by Dave and Shan, they're like, hey, let us interview you so we can get some typing practice. So cool to see Ian here, still on the journey with us. Thanks, Ian. And thanks to everyone who tuned in to watch now live or in the future. I have been Steve.
It's the future now.
It's now the future. I've been Steve, the INTP, and this is my wife,
Renee,
Renee.
INTP's wife.
Yeah. Renee, whose type is ? We'll find out later. Thanks for watching, folks. Have a good one. Bye-bye.